Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be splitting my time with the member from Parry Sound, Muskoka. We have a cost of living crisis in Canada. The price of housing, groceries, fuel, and home heating have pushed far too many to the financial breaking point. Once upon a time, if you worked hard in Canada, you could earn a paycheck that would comfortably pay for your necessities. You would even have some cash left over, maybe take a family vacation. My father was an electrician. One of my brothers is an electrician and another is a carpenter. These are good blue-collar jobs in the skilled trades. We grew up in a safe neighborhood on Vancouver Island, a place that's not that safe anymore. My father worked hard and he was able to raise and support 6 children. We didn't always have a lot, but we always had enough. My brothers worked hard and were able to live comfortably. Sometimes we didn't have a lot in our kitchen cupboards, but my father never had to visit the food bank to put food on the table for us. That was the promise of Canada. But under these Liberals, that promise is broken. After 8 years of this overbearing NDP Liberal government, Canadians are out of money and they are turning their backs on the Liberal Party, and the Prime Minister knows it. Out of pure political desperation, he has put forward new legislation to address the mess he has made of housing and grocery prices. Unfortunately, this legislation, Bill C-56, is inadequate. The Liberals could have adopted the comprehensive housing policy put forward by the Leader of the Opposition in the Building Homes, Not Bureaucracy Act. But instead, they're taking a patchwork approach to the housing crisis. The bill removes the GST for rental unit construction projects, a campaign promise they made and broke in 2015. I support this proposal, but would have preferred the Liberals adopt the positive and sweeping reforms contained in our Conservative Leaders' Bill. More on that in a moment. C-56 also includes conservative policy introduced by my colleague from Bay of Quinte, amending the Competition Act by removing the efficiencies defense. This change will give the Competition Bureau more teeth to prevent mergers that will lead to higher prices and less choice. The changes in the legislation are positive and supportable, but it is lamentable that we are in this economic position in the first place. After 8 years of the NDP Liberal costly coalition, the promise of Canada is broken. Canadians with higher education and many working in the skilled trades find themselves living in tents or in their cars. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder plague our streets, and we have a Minister of Justice who says it's all in our heads. After 8 years of this NDP Liberal government and their punitive carbon tax, the cost of groceries is out of control and Canadian families are hurting. A tax on the farmer who grows the food, a tax on the trucker who ships the food, a tax on the store that sells the food is a tax on the family struggling to buy the food. 1 in 5 Canadians are now skipping meals because they simply can't afford food, and food bank usage is up, now at levels we've never seen before. Food banks in my community are at risk of bankruptcy because they can't keep up with demand. Put simply, our citizens can't afford to feed themselves because of the NDP Liberal government. They also are struggling to put a roof over their heads. 9 in 10 young Canadians believe the dream of home ownership is just that, a dream. 9 in 10? Mortgages have doubled. Rents have doubled. Down payments have doubled. Greater Vancouver is now the 3rd most overpriced housing market on the planet. In the city of Vancouver, the average rent is over $3,300 a month, and for a 2-bedroom apartment, nearly $3,900 a month. Add that to our nearly, well, actually $2 plus a litre for gas. A recent CD House study determined that in Vancouver, nearly $1.3 million of the cost of an average home is government gatekeepers adding unnecessary red tape. That means that over 60% of the price of a home in Vancouver is bloated by delays, fees, regulations, taxes, and high-priced consultants. Data from Statistics Canada shows that residential construction investment has declined for the 4th consecutive month, including a decrease of 3.2% in Vancouver. In Canada, it used to take 25 years to pay off a mortgage. Now it takes 25 years just to save up for a down payment. This NDP Liberal government's record on housing has been nothing short of disastrous. Just a few weeks ago, the Liberals met in London, Ontario for a 3-day retreat. They said that housing and affordability were their top priorities. What did the retreat accomplish? The Liberals re-announced their broken campaign promise from 2015 to remove the GST from new purpose-built rental housing. After the Liberals heard about our common-sense Conservative plan to axe the housing tax, they flip-flopped and tried to take credit. To address the increase in the price of food, the Prime Minister announced that they were calling in the grocery CEOs for a meeting. I'm sure they were very intimidated, Mr. Speaker. He then threatened them with tax measures that would inevitably be passed on to consumers if they don't lower prices. As expected, this amounted to nothing more than a stunt, a grocery gimmick, theater, if you will. Photo ops, announcements, virtue signaling, and now plagiarizing ideas from Conservatives. If the NDP Liberal government is looking for another idea to plagiarize from Conservatives, they should repeal their carbon taxes, stop the reckless spending that caused this affordability crisis in the first place. These are the real reasons, These are the real reasons Canadians are struggling with the high cost of living. High interest rates, high prices in the grocery stores and at the gas pumps. Bill C-56 doesn't go far enough and simply won't cut it when it comes to addressing and fixing the housing crisis in this country. As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, the Leader of the Opposition introduced the Building Homes Not Bureaucracy Act in Parliament last week. This is a real plan that will tie housing completions to infrastructure funding so we can get shovels in the ground while providing a building bonus to municipalities that exceed their home building targets. Simply put, if you build more houses efficiently, you get more money. Projections are that Canada needs 3.5 million new homes by 2030. We better get started. Our message to municipalities is clear: build, build, build. The Prime Minister rewards big city gatekeepers with tax dollars regardless of whether or not they do build homes. Our Conservative plan will require municipalities to build homes close to transit. Conservatives will also list 15% of the federal government's 37,000 buildings so they can be turned into affordable housing. We will remove the GST for any new home with rental prices below market value, incentivizing the construction of affordable homes. Conservatives will cut the bonuses at the gatekeepers at the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation if they are unable to speed up approval of applications to an average of 60 days. Under the Prime Minister's watch, these bureaucrats have been rewarded with huge performance bonuses for an abysmal performance. Much like this Prime Minister, C-56 is weak, inadequate, and reeks of desperation. Only a common-sense Conservative government will fix this housing crisis by building homes, not bureaucracy. Only a Conservative government will bring home lower prices for Canadians by ending the inflationary deficits and axing the carbon tax. The promise of Canada is broken, but hope is on the way. Conservatives will reverse these reckless policies and restore the promise of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.